Do you think doing all the work that you've done in the last few years that, going back in time, you would have crashed me as many times as you did?
Be honest with you, I did not crash you at all since
Stop it!
things happened. But
You
yeah,
totally
I
crashed me
did.
like
I was a
3
little
times in a week.
I know. I was a little aggressive for sure. But usually when I crash my friends, it's only because I'm trying to help. But I did.
Definitely. I'm glad you just dumped my primary car, my backup, and then had to go to another backup for the Daytona 500. That was what I was planning too.
Trust me, the second one, I think it was during the duel when you crashed. I hadn't even thought about the fact that she's got to race her, she's not locked in. She has to get in. And so I'm like, oh no, I'm just praying the whole time that race is going on. I totally put out of my mind what my result was going to be that day. I'm like, please let her make the race. Please let her make the race.
Because after you crashed me?
Yes.
Thanks to Kurt Busch, I did.
I know. And so, yeah, that was a relief. But I knew as soon as I got out of the car, I turned around. I was like, I saw you stomping down pit lane. And I'm like, well, you got to just take it. And so for me, it is different because I'm like, if it was a guy and he grabbed me by, I was like, I'm like, hey, let's talk, but for you, I'm like, I got you. Sit here and take it. Yep.
If she kicks you in the balls, take it.
I got to just take this in stride. And so there was no way for me to win in the public perception when you were coming up to me. I'm like, yeah, I can't turn her away. I can't argue back with her. I got to be a man here and just take it like a man.
Were you scared at all?
Yes and no, because I knew that we had a relationship, as friends for a while leading up to that. So I knew that you're yelling at me because you care, and you're yelling at me because you're comfortable enough around me to voice your opinion, and you know me enough that I will take it and hear it.
So looking back at the scenario, I think you told me you're too loose. I didn't do anything wrong. You're just too loose. Let's just be really honest. Tell me the serious, what really was going on in your head. Is that a fact or was it something else?
Well, I do think your cars were too loose. Yes. It's just so interesting when I watch some of these cars like Hendrick cars and stuff and how loose they run their cars during speedway races. And I'm like, gosh, I can't even get the whole way I'm going to make you go faster is me pushing you. And if I can't push you, then I'm not going to help you. I'm just going to try to dump you every chance that I get. I always try to push people that I feel like are very stable. Their cars are stable and I can hit them without them spinning out. But there's just a group of cars and I think at the time, might have had a Hendrick Alliance. I'm not really sure, but yeah, it's just, they always run their cars so loose that it's really hard to work with them. And so, even to this day, it's kind of the same old thing, but I wanted to help, but honestly, it was just a mistake that I made. And I've made so many in the course of my career, making aggressive moves to, I've always learned. And if you ever hear Dale Jr. say, the way he's found success on super speedways is being selfish. And I'm not the greatest teammate on super speedway races. I found success by doing for myself. And so this year's Daytona 500, I committed to pushing my teammates. I'm thinking in my head, I shouldn't be here. This is a spot I don't want to be in. I see cars starting to get riled up and a wreck is coming. And I'm like, I should just bail. But I told these guys I would stick with them and I didn't bail. Bam, I got crashed. And so I just feel like that type of racing, you have to be a little bit selfish, but you have to make aggressive moves. And sometimes that comes at other people's expense.
Yeah. I'm glad. Thank you for confessing that you dumped me.
I did.
Yeah. You know what I look at it is that you as a driver, we as drivers, whatever, we know when we leave no room for error because we just don't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't really care if you hit someone. And that to me feels like a lot of times the scenario people put themselves in they're just like, I'm leaving. I don't care. I really don't care.
I tried to be, I feel like on the spectrum of super aggressive and super passive, I honestly feel like I'm on the passive side of my aggression level. I mean, my team tells me all the time, like, you got to hit that hole. You got to be more aggressive. Like, we feel like we could win more races if you're more aggressive. And I'm like, I get it, but to me, there's no art to passing by just knocking someone out of the way. Like, that's not. I was raised by watching some of the greatest short track racers like work over someone and save their tires and then blow past them in the long run and pass them. And I was like, that's how I emulated my style. Now, of course, I've made mistakes along the way. I've wrecked people for sure. None have been intentional, except for sort of one. Not you. No. Chase Elliott, 2017, Martinsville. No intentions of wrecking him. I was just trying to knock him out of the way, but he spun, and then it tainted my legacy with the Chase Elliott crowd from this point on. They can't get rid of it. They can't get over it. But it's like, we all make mistakes because we're in a business where we run right up next to each other, and we have to manipulate sometimes that other person's car to get speed out of ours. And so I feel like I'm kind of on the passive side, but there's always been moments. I've been doing this for 18 years. So if I have a handful of moments where I've really crashed someone, that's not bad. Don't be bitter. It's okay.
Do you think NASCAR should not intervene with retaliations and crashing? Because it always feels like NASCAR gets after the retaliation and not the initial.
They set a precedence when Matt Kenseth wrecked Joey Logano.
Oh, yeah, that was so exciting, though. It's so exciting.
I got car,
totally screwed it.
We heard the crowd, right? I mean, we heard the crowd going nuts when it happened.
For those who don't know, he was Matt Kenseth was taken out by Joey Logano, and he needed to get through to the chase by winning, and he was in the lead. He took him out, and then the next weekend at Martinsville, nothing happened while he was up there, up in the mix for top 3, top 5. But then once he was a lap down, he waited and came back up on track. And when the green flag dropped at the end of the race, he just freaking dumped Joey. And I, for one, am joyful about that, because Joey's a jackass on the track. He also is another one that I don't like, probably more than you even. But he crashed me too. And he's just a little punk out there. Just look at his track record. Just look at how many people have a beef with him.
Yeah, it's tough because Joey's, on that spectrum I'm talking about, he's all the way on the full end, right? He is very aggressive, and it's been successful for him. But ultimately, I mean, sometimes you care about friends, sometimes you don't. And it's not just that, but I feel like at that time, Kenseth had enough, and he said, I am destroying you. I'm making sure you don't make another corner. And NASCAR suspended Matt over that. And their reasoning is that we never have stepped in like this before, but Matt wasn't on the lead lap. He slowed down and waited for Joey to come by, and he just deliberately smashed him. So they said, it's fair game as long as you're racing for position. So we're racing up front. It's kind of fair game. And we saw it with Ross Chastain and myself earlier this year. I mean, we were racing 1-2. Yeah. I mean, he's crashed me multiple times this year. And I've always said, it will come back around in due time. And I had one opportunity so far that, lent itself to me. We were battling for the race win at Pocono, and I just left him zero room and essentially let him wreck himself in that scenario. And if I'm him, I know that, okay, I've done this guy wrong. He's probably going to force me high. I probably should check up. He didn't check up and just ran himself right into the fence. But it was just, NASCAR was okay with that because we're racing for position. Now, if I had slowed down and just took him out, I think that they have an exception for that.
But the problem
I think they need to let it go and let us continue to police it, because otherwise, it's just going to be a bunch of penalties, and that's not going to be fun for anyone.
Well, the problem I have is that if you're racing for position, then you have something on the line. And so it doesn't seem fair. Like, if they took you out, you might not be on the lead lap anymore if something happened. So then they get to be up there, but then you have to wait until you have something on the line again.
Yeah.
And that's bullshit. I think you should get the change. I think that you should just, if it all self-policed itself out there, it would all be taken care of, and it would get back to like rough and rowdy, like, NASCAR, just like let it rip. I think I love fights though. Like I was just so excited when one was happening and I could hear one or a red flag would come out and I heard the crowd. I'm like on the radio. I'm like, gosh, I know there's a fight. What's going on? It's exciting.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, I tried to a little bit when he wrecked me the first time at Gateway. You probably saw highlights of me running around 30 miles an hour, swerving back and forth, like slowing him down. Like he almost got disqualified from the race for not making minimum speed. I was one lap away from keeping him from running minimum speed, which would have got him DQ'd. And I knew that I couldn't, being a lap down, my car was beat up. I knew that I couldn't make contact with him, but I didn't want him to know that. So I just, every time he was around me, I would take a swipe here and there, just to voice my anger, because I knew that we weren't going to talk afterwards. And it was just, he understands where I stand in it. We've raced each other pretty well since those couple of instances, but drivers always keep a scorecard in the back of their head.